Asterisk, the rain had stopped sometime before dawn, leaving behind the scent of wet earth and wild sage. The river ran high and restless from the storm, its surface a mirror of broken gray light. Along its muddy bank, a young woman knelt, clutching a small bundle wrapped in a threadbare blanket. The baby's cries echoed through the morning mist then. Hungry, desperate. Asterisk, her name was Clara, and she'd walked for miles since midnight, her boots soaked through, her shawl torn from snagging on the thorns that bordered the trail. She'd been running not from danger, exactly, but from everything that had gone wrong. Asterisk, her husband, gone to war 2 years ago, had never come home. The landlord wanted the rent. The village women whispered when she passed. And now, even the tiny cottage he had built before leaving had been taken from her. The door padlocked, her things thrown out into the rain. She had nowhere to go, so she came here, to the river that once marked the edge of her and Samuel's little world. When they were young, they'd sat by this same water, dreaming about a family, a future. Now she sat alone, her arms trembling around their child. Samuel's son. The baby cried again, a sound that tore through the fog like an arrow. Shoo. I know, sweetheart, she whispered, rocking him. Mama's here. Mama's got you. Asterisk, but she didn't have much else. The milk had stopped coming days ago. Her food was gone. Her body ached from hunger and cold. Asterisk, when she heard the horse's hooves clopping against the wet trail behind her, she turned, startled. For a moment, she thought it might be someone come to drive her off again. But instead, through the veil of mist, came a tall man on horseback, a broad-shouldered figure in a dark oilskin coat, hat pulled low against the drizzle. Asterisk, he slowed when he saw her, reining his horse to a stop. Asterisk, you all right there, ma'am? His voice was deep, steady, carrying that soft western drawl that could sound both kind and cautious at once. Asterisk, Clara instinctively shielded her baby, pulling him close. We're fine, she said quickly. We just needed to rest. Asterisk, the man dismounted. You don't look fine. Asterisk, he came closer, his boots sinking into the mud. The horse snorted behind him, steam curling from its nostrils. Clara's eyes darted up, meeting his for the first time. Asterisk, he wasn't young, but not old either, maybe in his 30s. His face was rugged from the sun and wind, his jaw dark with stubble, but his eyes gray as the morning river held something gentle. Asterisk, he glanced at the baby, then at her. Where are you headed? Asterisk, she hesitated. Anywhere that'll have us. Asterisk, he let out a breath, crouching down to her level. This ain't a safe place to sit, miss. River's rising from the storm. You'll get caught in the current if you stay too close. Asterisk, Clara looked down at the churning water. She knew he was right. But the road behind her felt even worse, a road of shame and rejection. Asterisk, I don't have anywhere else to go. She admitted softly. Asterisk, the man nodded once, as if that answer made perfect sense. Then, without saying another word, he shrugged off his heavy coat and stepped closer. Here, he said, draping it around her shoulders and over the baby. Asterisk, it smelled of leather, smoke, and something faintly like pine. It was warm, so warm it made her eyes sting. I can't take this, she said weakly. You can, he replied. And you will. That little one's colder than he should be. Asterisk, the baby, now half hidden in the folds of the coat, gave a softer whimper, his small hand curling near her chin. Clara pressed a kiss to his forehead, whispering a thank you she could barely voice. Asterisk, the cowboy stood, glancing up the trail. There's a cabin not far from here. Mine. Fire's still going from this morning. You can come by, get dry, get the baby warm. I don't want trouble, Clara murmured. He gave a faint, almost tired smile. Ma'am, trouble's when you leave a baby crying by a river. Helping ain't trouble. Asterisk, something in his voice quiet, certain cut through the fear inside her. She nodded finally and let him help her to her feet. He lifted her small bundle of belongings onto his saddle, then helped her mount behind him, one arm keeping her steady as they rode through the mist. The cabin sat nestled in a grove of birch trees, their pale trunks still dripping from the night's rain. Smoke curled from the chimney. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of wood smoke and coffee. Asterisk, the man took the baby from her arms with surprising gentleness, holding him against his broad chest while Clara stood shivering near the hearth. Asterisk, name's Luke, he said quietly. Luke Callahan. Ranch about 2 miles west, but I stay here most days to watch the herd. Asterisk, Clara, she whispered, her voice hoarse. And this is Samuel, after his father. Asterisk, Luke nodded. Good name. Asterisk, he moved with a quiet efficiency, set a pot on the stove, found a clean cloth, warmed some milk he had for the calves, and handed it to her. Ain't much, he said, but it'll keep the little fella strong till we figure something better. Asterisk, when the baby finally drank and drifted off to sleep, Clara sat near the fire, exhaustion pulling at her. Luke leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching the flames dance. Asterisk, you from town? He asked after a while. Asterisk was, she said. But there's no place for us there anymore. Asterisk, he didn't press. Town's got a short memory when it comes to kindness, he said, but a long one when it comes to gossip. Asterisk, that made her look up sharply, surprised. He wasn't judging, he was simply stating something he'd learned long ago. Asterisk, you sound like you know that from experience. Asterisk, he gave a short, dry chuckle. Let's just say I've been the subject of talk before. People got their reasons, I guess. Asterisk, Clara studied him for a moment, her fingers absently stroking her son's hair. Why are you out here alone? Asterisk, Luke took a long breath before answering. Wife passed through winter's back. Lost the baby too. I stay out here where it's quiet. Asterisk, the room fell still except for the soft crackle of the fire. She wanted to say something, but the words caught in her throat. Asterisk, I'm sorry, she said finally. Asterisk, he nodded once, eyes fixed on the flames. So am I. Over the next few days, the rain kept coming soft and steady, keeping them all close inside. Luke rode out only to check the fences, bringing back food and kindling. Clara helped where she could, cleaning, mending clothes, cooking small meals. She didn't ask for more, and he didn't treat her like a guest or a burden, just another person trying to keep the cold at bay. Asterisk, when the sun finally broke through, turning the hills gold and green, she stood by the window holding Samuel, watching the light dance across the river in the distance. Asterisk, Luke came in from the barn, hat in hand. Fences held. Cattle are fine. Guess that's one good thing after all that rain. Asterisk, she smiled faintly. Feels strange seeing sunlight again. Asterisk, he looked at her for a long moment. It suits you, he said quietly. Asterisk, her cheeks flushed, but she turned away, pretending to fuss with the baby's blanket. You've done too much for us already, Luke. I don't know how to repay it. Asterisk, he shrugged. You don't. Some things don't need paying back. Asterisk, that night, when she laid Samuel down in the little cradle Luke had built out of spare pine wood, Clara found herself whispering a prayer she hadn't said in months, not for herself, but for the man who had given her and her child a chance to feel human again. Weeks passed. Spring deepened. Wildflowers began to bloom along the river. Asterisk, Clara started planting a small garden behind the cabin. Luke fixed the porch steps and added a second chair beside his own. Samuel grew stronger, laughing now when Luke made faces or let him grip his finger. Asterisk. Sometimes, in the evenings, they'd all sit outside watching the sunset, the world bathed in copper light. It was quiet, peaceful in a way that made Clara ache with something she didn't dare name. Asterisk, one evening, as she washed dishes, Luke came in, hesitating by the doorway. Asterisk. You ever think about staying? He asked suddenly. Asterisk, she turned, hands still wet. Staying? Asterisk, he nodded. Here, with Samuel. Ain't much, but it's safe. I could use help with the place. And you deserve better than wandering from one bad hand to another. Asterisk, Clara stared at him, heart thudding. You don't even know me. Asterisk, I know enough, he said simply. I know you'd walk through a storm for your boy. I know you've got more strength than most men I've met. And I know I ain't ready to see that cradle empty again. Asterisk tears filled her eyes before she could stop them. She crossed the small space between them and took his hand. Asterisk, I don't want to be charity, Luke. Asterisk, he met her gaze, steady and warm. Then don't be. Be home. Months later, travelers passing by the Callahan place would see something new. A woman hanging laundry in the sunshine, her laughter carrying over the wind, and a baby toddling barefoot through the grass, while a tall cowboy leaned against the fence. Watching them both with quiet pride, asterisk, and sometimes, when the wind came off the river and the evening light turned silver, Clara would remember that first night, the rain, the crying, the cold, and the moment a stranger wrapped her and her son in his coat, giving them warmth when the world had none to spare. Asterisk, she would whisper softly to her sleeping child, You see, my love, the river took everything once, but it also brought us him. Asterisk and the cowboy, sitting by the firelight, would glance over, tip his hat, and smile knowing he'd finally found the family he thought he'd lost forever. Asterisk, asterisk, moral of the story, asterisk. When Luke, the cowboy, finds Clara and her crying baby by the river, he doesn't judge or question, he simply helps. His compassion becomes the turning point that gives both of them hope again. It shows how one act of empathy can restore dignity and peace to someone who has lost everything.